Yeah, he had a great run, and it's fun to watch. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa. Caitlin Clark play about the same last year, so I was watching a lot of basketball.
Yeah, he had a legendary run, and it was thrilling to watch. And while fans were still buzzing from Caitlin Clark's rise at Iowa and the Fever's growing spotlight, nobody expected the next chapter to come crashing in like this. Because in a move that has shaken the entire basketball world to its core, the Indiana Fever have announced a shocking coaching change that nobody saw coming. And stepping into the spotlight isn't just any replacement, but one of the most iconic names in sports history. Larry Bird, the Hall of Famer, the Celtics icon, the hick from French Lick himself, returning not to the NBA hardwood, but to the WNBA sidelines. And the moment it broke, fans couldn't believe their eyes, social media went into meltdown, and whispers turned into roars. Because this isn't just a new hire, this is a cultural earthquake. The merging of past greatness with the future of the game, and the only question left is simple yet electrifying. Why now? And what does Larry Bird's arrival mean for Caitlin Clark, the Fever, and the future of women's basketball? Larry Bird's story is the kind that doesn't just get told in Indiana, it gets carved into the very heart of basketball itself. Because this isn't just a man who played the game, this is the legend who redefined it, born in French Lick in 1956 and raised on cracked concrete courts, where his hunger for greatness outshined everything around him. He rose from a small-town kid to a global icon whose name echoes in every arena, from the NCAA showdown with Magic Johnson that electrified the nation in 1979 to his glory years with the Boston Celtics, where he turned championships into routine and rivalries into theater. Bird wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the flashiest, but he was the smartest and toughest competitor the sport had ever seen. And when he stepped onto the NBA floor, he didn't just play basketball, he orchestrated it like an artist with ice in his veins and fire in his eyes, leading Boston to 3 championships, 3 straight MVPs, 12 All-Star appearances, and a spot on the Dream Team that is still hailed as the greatest collection of talent ever assembled. And the truth is, Bird never needed to prove anything again. His name was already etched in golden letters, but somehow his hunger to lead and to shape the game kept pulling him back. First as a coach guiding the Indiana Pacers to the NBA Finals, then as an executive becoming the only man in history to win MVP, Coach of the Year, and Executive of the Year. A triple crown of basketball authority that made him one of one. So when the news hit that he was now walking into the WNBA as the Indiana Fever's head coach, the shock wasn't just about the comeback, it was about the weight of his legacy colliding with the Fever's bright future. And everyone watching knew instantly that this wasn't business as usual. This was history unfolding in real time. If there's one force powerful enough to drag Larry Bird back into the intensity of coaching, it's the meteoric rise of Caitlin Clark. Because in 2024, she didn't just debut in the WNBA, she detonated onto the scene like a supernova, averaging nearly 20 points, 8 rebounds, and almost 6 assists a night, while turning every Fever game into a national event. And the numbers only tell half the story, because what she brought was an energy that shook the league to its core. Suddenly, Indiana's arena was packed with over 17,000 screaming fans. Television ratings broke the million mark again and again. And a franchise that had been stuck in the shadows since 2016 was suddenly alive with electricity. Clark wasn't just a rookie, she was a movement. Her deep threes at the buzzer, her no-look passes that humiliated defenders, her fearless competitiveness lit a fire across women's basketball. And it's that very spark that insiders believe may have pulled Larry Bird back into the storm. Because here was a chance to mold raw greatness, to fuse his old-school toughness and discipline with her fearless new-school creativity. Imagine the icy calm of Bird's legendary basketball brain, paired with Clark's explosive firepower, a combination so deadly it could not only revive the Fever, but redefine the WNBA. And the whispers didn't stop there, because another name began to surface: Sophie Cunningham, the gritty guard known for her relentless hustle, lockdown defense, and clutch shooting, a player whose blue-collar tenacity mirrors Bird's philosophy. And if you put Clark's magic alongside Cunningham's grit under Bird's leadership, you're talking about a team that could balance elegance with toughness, showtime with structure, and turned the Fever from playoff hopefuls into a dynasty in the making. Because this wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about building something history would never forget. Larry Bird stepping into the WNBA isn't just a headline, it's the merging of eras. And if anyone questions whether he has the credentials to pull this off, the receipts are overwhelming, because back in 1997, he shocked the NBA by taking over the Indiana Pacers with zero prior coaching experience. Yet, in his very first season, he transformed them into a powerhouse, finishing 58-24, the best record in franchise history at that time, and nearly knocking Michael Jordan's Bulls off the throne in an epic 7-game Eastern Conference Finals. Bird's mind for the game was so sharp, so surgical, that he was named NBA Coach of the Year immediately. And he didn't stop there, guiding the Pacers to back-to-back division titles and finally the NBA Finals in 2000 before stepping down on his own terms, staying true to his promise of coaching only 3 years. But even after leaving the sidelines, his influence never faded. Because in 2003, he returned as president of basketball operations and once again worked his magic, building rosters in a small market, reshaping the Pacers with bold trades and smart draft picks, and in 2012, he pulled off the impossible by becoming the only person in NBA history to be named MVP, Coach of the Year, and Executive of the Year, a triple crown of basketball greatness no one else has ever touched. And although he stepped away multiple times, citing health and the grind of the spotlight, Bird always found his way back to Indiana, most recently as a consultant in 2023. So when you stack up his player legacy, his coaching genius, and his front office brilliance, it becomes clear that if anyone can bridge the NBA's old school toughness with the WNBA's new era of speed, creativity, and fire, it's Larry Bird. And that's why his move to the Fever feels less like a gamble and more like destiny in motion. But this return isn't just about coaching or strategy, it's about culture. Because when Larry Bird steps back into the spotlight, especially in Indiana, it shakes the very soul of basketball itself. And for Hoosiers, the game isn't just a sport, it's a religion passed from generation to generation. And if basketball is sacred, then Larry Bird is its living prophet, a hometown kid who grew from cracked blacktops in French Lick to the brightest stages in the world, carrying with him the grit, humility, and blue-collar toughness that defines Indiana. And now imagine that kind of influence colliding with the Indiana Fever, a team already fueled by Caitlin Clark's superstar energy, because Bird's presence doesn't just mean X's and O's, it means credibility, vision, and respect. The kind of respect the WNBA has been fighting to claim for decades. And suddenly, the Fever are no longer just another franchise. They're the epicenter of a cultural shift, the team every free agent wants to join, the brand every sponsor wants to back, the arena every fan wants to be part of, and the story every sports network is desperate to cover. And yes, the challenges will be real, from salary caps to roster rules to adapting to a league evolving at lightning speed. But Bird has reinvented himself before, from player to coach, from coach to executive, from legend to mentor. And every time he's risen higher, and if he succeeds again, this won't just change the Fever. It will ignite the entire WNBA, rewriting its place in the sports world and proving once and for all that women's basketball deserves the exact same spotlight as the men's game. Larry Bird's arrival doesn't just shake up the Fever, it blasts shockwaves across sports, business, and culture. Because when a name like Bird's collides with a superstar like Caitlin Clark, you're not just building a team, you're building a global brand. Suddenly, jerseys are flying off the shelves, season tickets are gone in days, highlight reels flood social media, and every outlet from ESPN to late-night talk shows is buzzing about Indianapolis. And that's the magic of this pairing, the perfect storm of past greatness and future potential, because Clark is the Gen Z icon whose deep threes and fearless swagger have made her a household name. And Bird is the legend whose basketball IQ commands respect everywhere from the hardwood to the boardroom. Together they create a partnership that transcends the game. Sponsors would scramble to lock in deals, companies would fight to attach their brands, and the Fever would stop being just a team and start becoming a movement, the kind of franchise that defines an era. And that's exactly what the WNBA has been craving. that breakthrough moment that finally forces the world to pay attention. Because the talent has always been there, the heart has always been there, but the mainstream spotlight has been slow to follow, and Bird's presence could be the tipping point. The spark that drags new fans into the seats, pulls casual viewers onto broadcasts, and pushes the league into conversations it's never reached before. Because this isn't just basketball anymore, it's history unfolding in real time, and the Fever are standing right in the middle. Still, with all the excitement swirling, the real question is whether Larry Bird can adapt to the unique identity of the WNBA. Because this league isn't the NBA, it's its own world with a faster pace, tighter rosters, and players who have been fighting for every ounce of recognition for decades. And stepping into that space as a legendary figure carries pressure unlike anything else. But if anyone has proven they can reinvent themselves, it's Bird, because he's already transformed from a player into a coach, from a coach into an executive, and from an executive into a mentor, always finding ways to elevate the game, no matter the role. And this challenge could be the boldest one yet, because it's not just about wins and losses, it's about building trust, understanding a new generation of athletes, and embracing a culture that is demanding equality, respect, and visibility on the global stage. And Bird's history shows he thrives under that kind of fire. The same competitive spirit that made him dive for loose balls and drain clutch shots now fuels him to prove that leadership has no gender lines, no boundaries, just results. And if he can bring his toughness, his vision, and his ability to inspire into this new landscape, then his move to the Fever won't just work. It will redefine what leadership in women's basketball looks like, pushing the league into a new chapter where legends and rising stars rewrite history together. Because the truth is, whenever Larry Bird makes a move, it's never just about basketball. It's about shaking the culture, rewriting the headlines, and forcing the world to pay attention. And this return is no different, because if he fully commits to the Indiana Fever, it won't just impact one roster. It will ripple across the entire WNBA and beyond. Imagine a franchise not simply built to compete, but built to symbolize an era, where every game feels like history in motion. Bird brings more than experience, he brings instant credibility, the kind of respect that no marketing budget could ever buy. And when you put that name next to Caitlin Clark, a generational superstar with a fan base stretching from college gyms to primetime television, you create a duo that's bigger than sports. It's a storyline that sells jerseys, breaks television ratings, pulls in international fans, and has corporations racing to slap their logos on the Fever's rise. Suddenly, it's not just ESPN talking, it's morning shows, business panels, lifestyle media, and political commentators, all pointing at Indianapolis, asking how this happened. And the answer is simple. The mix of Bird's legendary authority with Clark's modern magnetism creates a cultural phenomenon, a pairing so powerful it turns a WNBA franchise into a global brand. And with Sophie Cunningham or other rising stars in the mix, you're not looking at just a playoff push. You're looking at a dynasty blueprint, the kind of foundation that could finally give the WNBA the mainstream breakthrough it has been chasing for decades. And that's why this move feels less like a coaching hire and more like the start of a revolution. At the end of the day, this story is about legacy colliding with destiny. Because Larry Bird isn't coming back to relive the past, he's stepping in to shape the future. And the WNBA stands on the edge of a breakthrough it's been building toward for years. With the Indiana Fever suddenly at the heart of it all, Caitlin Clark carrying the torch of a new generation, Sophie Cunningham bringing grit and balance, and now Bird arriving with the weight of history and the authority to demand attention. And together, that combination doesn't just make Indiana dangerous, it makes them unforgettable. The kind of team that could define what the next decade of women's basketball looks like. Yes, there will be doubts. Yes, there will be challenges. But Bird has never been defined by easy paths. He's been defined by moments where pressure turned into greatness. And if he can fuse his legendary discipline with the fire of today's WNBA stars, then what we're witnessing isn't just another chapter in basketball, it's the start of a new era, one where barriers crumble, respect grows, and the game finally gets the spotlight it has always deserved. And the only question left is whether the rest of the league is ready, because the Fever aren't just building a roster, they're building history. And with Larry Bird at the helm, history has a way of turning into legend. So here we are, standing at the edge of something no one thought possible. Because Larry Bird is no longer just a legend of the past, he's now the architect of the future, and his decision to lead the Indiana Fever isn't just a headline. It's a shockwave that could redefine the WNBA. With Caitlin Clark rewriting the record books, Sophie Cunningham adding the toughness every dynasty needs, and Bird bringing the kind of vision and credibility that money can't buy, this team is no longer just another franchise in the league. It's the beating heart of a revolution. And whether you love him or doubt him, one thing is clear. When Larry Bird makes a move, the entire world watches, and this move could finally give women's basketball the stage it has always deserved. So the question isn't if the Fever will change, the question is how big that change will be, and how far this ripple will spread across sports, culture, and history itself. And now, we turn it over to you. Do you believe Larry Bird's return will rewrite the WNBA forever? Or is this just the beginning of a story even bigger than we can imagine? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the revolution in basketball has already begun.